Hi people, it's me Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video. The first book on this list is called Everything She Does Is Magic. I was really excited to read this book, frankly, because so many people were hyping it up on social media, mainly on Twitter, I think. A lot of people were choosing it for Sapphic September, although I'm not quite sure that the people choosing it for those Sapphic September TBRs have actually read it. And I've realized that I made that mistake before because in the past, when I would watch booktube videos, I would watch people be so excited about all these books they're adding to their fall TBR or their monthly TBRs or whatever. And then I would watch their recent reads videos or their monthly wrap-ups. And oftentimes, they didn't actually read the books on their TBRs. And that is what sets me apart from other fellow booktubers. But anyway, all that to say, I was really excited to read this book. It's a YA urban fantasy following two sapphic main characters who team up because they both have something that the other person wants or needs or something. I don't know, that was really vague on purpose because I didn't like this book very much. I thought, first of all, that it was so underdeveloped, from the magic system to the characters themselves to even the romance. This book was advertised to me as like a romance-driven, atmospheric, cozy, low-stakes book. And it's definitely super low stakes, considering that like nothing of any high value happens, if that makes any sense. I don't think they even have any chemistry, frankly. I rated this book 3 stars, and I really should have DNF'd it earlier because I just wasn't really enjoying a lot of it. So anyway, with that said, I think this book is really overrated. I think I didn't enjoy it. And with that said, I would definitely not recommend it. So there you have it. The next book on this list is called Daughter of the Bone Forest. This story is a YA fantasy following a young sapphic main character who has the ability to shift into animals. And basically, she bonds with the princess. This story is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. First of all, I loved the world building and how magical and atmospheric and dazzling and vivid it was. And everything made so much sense, from the politics to the sapphic romance to the friendships to the characters to everything. I'm so excited to read the sequel. Like, I'm so excited. Like, it's going to be so good and so well done. I'm not quite sure if the sequel comes out later this year or early next year, but whatever the case, I'm so excited to read it because this book was so fantastic and so good. I loved how queer normative the world building was because that normalized the queerness in this universe so well. Like, it was so good, and the sapphic romance didn't have to deal with homophobia or anything like that, and it felt so natural and just so well paced. I loved the plot and the mystery and like the politics and the family dynamics and everything. Like, this book is fantastic and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 to 5 stars and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Rosa by Any Other Name. This story is a YA historical fiction retelling of Romeo and Juliet with a Mexican-American main character set during the 1950s. I absolutely really enjoyed this book because, first of all, the world building felt so refreshing and so well done. Whenever I read historical fiction books, I try to gravitate towards books set during an era or set about people that I didn't really learn about during school, because like when I was learning about this time period in school, I kind of assumed that it only affected Black and white people, which is definitely not the case because obviously there were so many people with other races and ethnicities that existed during the 1950s that these laws obviously impacted and still impact to this day. So anyway, this book was so good and it was so educational and so well done. But also, aside from that, the characters felt authentic. The romance was so well paced and so awesome. I love the plot and the friendships and everything. This book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good and it's so underrated. So anyway, with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars and I would definitely highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Moonleapers. This story is a middle-grade science fiction contemporary, if that makes any sense. Like, it's set in modern day, but basically it follows a young main character whose new phone connects her to a network of time travelers, which I think is so fascinating and so well done. And this author is one that I loved when I was younger, so when I was reading this book from a different lens, I tried not to read it with a nostalgic lens, and it's genuinely so good. First of all, I love the world building, I love the time travel, and it all made so much sense, which I really, really appreciated, because oftentimes with science fiction, I don't understand what's going on, and in a bad way. You know what I mean? Not like with fantasy, when I don't understand what's going on in the beginning, and then it starts to make sense as more and more things are revealed. But typically, historically, with science fiction, like, it makes less sense as things are revealed. But anyway, I digress. In this story, it was done so well, and I love the pacing and the plot and the characters and everything about it. Like, it was so good. This book reminded me of, like, The Secret Library, but with a science fiction element instead. And that's such a high compliment because I love The Secret Library. But anyway, this book was so good and so awesome. So with that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars. I'm so excited to read the sequel. And with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list, and definitely not the least, is called The Book of Anansi. Did I say that correctly? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, this story is a middle-grade portal fantasy sequel, and I thought it was so good. I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars because it definitely amplified the stakes from the previous book, which I really appreciated. I hate it whenever I start a book series and the first one is so incredibly awesome, and then the second book sucks. But this series did not do that at all, and the second book was so good. I love the world building and the setting and the characters and the friendship dynamics and everything about it. Like, the plot and the pacing and the mystery was so good and so interesting. Like, this book is excellent. This series is definitely Angie's best so far. I honestly think that these middle-grade books are better than the YA books that she's written, honestly, because they're far more memorable, frankly. I know that says a lot because Angie is known for writing The Hate U Give. But anyway, this book is fantastic and it was so good. And I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to see what will happen next in the sequels. I'm not quite sure how many books Angie has planned. I don't know why I'm referring to her by her first name as if I know her personally. But anyway, I rated this book 4 stars. I thought it was so good and such a solid sequel. So anyway, with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. So in conclusion, honestly, my September reading month has not been as fruitful as I was really expecting it to be. Although I did join Book TikTok last week, and I'm trying to maintain my schedule of posting once a day, every day. So that has taken a toll on me. But in general, I would say that in terms of quality, the books I've been reading have been solid. In terms of quantity, which is the factor that I'm more disappointed in, because that's my brand and that's really what I'm known for, even though I know that, like, I can reinvent myself at any time and my brand is something that I've created myself. Anyway, I don't know if that really makes any sense. I think I've not done a good job of giving myself grace this year as I should be doing, because I don't know, I think I've discussed this before about how my achievements don't really feel like achievements if they feel like obligations. And I feel like reading a lot feels like an obligation since it's part of my brand. So I'm often not proud of myself if I read less than normal, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, because I don't really know if this is really relatable to anyone, since I don't really know of any other booktuber who's known for reading 400 books a year regularly. But anyway, in conclusion, all that to say, if you enjoy this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big Thumbs up, comment down below the clock emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.